15.5. At Savatthi, then a certain monk approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, sat down to one side and said to him, Venerable Sir, how long is an aeon? This aeon refers to a kappa, a world cycle. A world cycle has 4 stages. Firstly, like now, the world exists. And it will exist for a long time. This is one stage. Then after that, it will start to disintegrate. And this process of disintegrating takes a long time before it finally disintegrates. Then after it disintegrates, there will be a period when there's no world. And then also it's a long time. And then after that, the formation of the world, what you call in the Bible, Genesis, the world starts to form. That also takes a long time until finally the world has come into existence. So these 4 stages is one world cycle. Here it says an aeon. In the Pali it's kappa, or in Sanskrit it's kalpa. And the Buddha said, an aeon is long, monk. It's not easy to count it and say it is so many years, or so many hundreds of years, or so many thousands of years, or so many hundreds of thousands of years. And the monk asked, then is it possible to give a simile, Venerable Sir? It is possible, monk, the Blessed One said. Suppose, monk, there was a great stone mountain, 1 yojana long, 1 yojana wide, and 1 yojana high, without holes or crevices, one solid mass of rock. I'll stop here for a moment. 1 yojana refers to a long length, and it's supposed to be 10 kilometers, 10 kilometers or 10 miles. Say we assume it's 10 kilometers. So this solid rock is 10 kilometers high, 10 kilometers long, and 10 kilometers wide. A solid cube. At the end of every 100 years, a man would stroke it once with a piece of kasi or Kasian cloth. Let's stop here for a moment. This Kasi is a city. It's a great trading center. So Kasian cloth is a very fine cloth, something like silk. So you take a very fine cloth, you are only allowed once in 100 years to rub that solid rock. That great stone mountain might by this effort be worn away and eliminated, but the aeon would still not have come to an end. So long is an aeon, monk, and aeons of such length. We have wandered through so many aeons, so many hundreds of aeons, so many thousands of aeons, so many hundreds of thousands of aeons. For what reason? Because, monk, this samsara is without discoverable beginning, and it is enough to be liberated from them. So, you see, the simile given of a world cycle is so long. This solid rock is so huge, you are only allowed to rub it only once in 100 years, only once, and with a soft cloth. How long it will take to wear away that rock? And yet the Buddha says the rock would have finished worn away, and yet 1 aeon has not passed. So it's like almost impossible to count how long that aeon is. So remember the Buddha said he contemplated the last 91 world cycles and saw only 6 Sammasambuddhas willing to teach the Dhamma. And then I mentioned also the last 3 Buddhas were on this world cycle. That means the last 90 world cycles, there were only 3 Sammasambuddhas. That means 30 world cycles before you meet 1 Sammasambuddha. Such a long time. So if we don't make use of this Dhamma now, we are not going to meet it. We'll have to suffer so much. Our tears will fill another 4 great oceans. (15.20) On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Rajagaha on Mount Vulture Peak. There the Blessed One addressed the monks thus, Monks, Venerable Sir, those monks replied. The Blessed One said, Monks, this samsara is without discoverable beginning. The first point is not discern of beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. In the past, monks, this Mount Vipula was called Pachinavamsa, and at that time these people were called Tivaras. The lifespan of the Tivaras was 40,000 years. They could climb Mount Pachinavangsa in 4 days and descend in 4 days. At that time, the Blessed One, Kakusanda and Arahant Sammasambuddha had arisen in the world. His two chief disciples were named Vidura and Sanjiva, an excellent pair. See, monks, that name for this mountain has disappeared. Those people have died, and that Blessed One has attained final Nibbana. So impermanent are volitions, monks, so unstable, so unreliable. It is enough, monks, to experience revulsion towards all volitions, enough to become dispassionate towards them, enough to be liberated from them. At another time in the past, monks, this Mount Vipula was called Vankaka, and at that time these people were called Rohitasas. The lifespan of the Rohitasas was 30,000 years. They could climb Mount Vankaka in 3 days and descend in 3 days. At that time, the Blessed One, Kona Gamana, and Arahant Sammasambuddha had arisen in the world. His two chief disciples were named Biyosa and Uttara, an excellent pair. See, monks, that name for this mountain has disappeared. Those people have died, and that Blessed One has attained final Nibbana. So impermanent are volitions, so unstable, so unreliable, etc. It is enough to experience revulsion, experience this dispassion towards them, enough to be liberated from them. At still another time in the past, monks, this Mount Vipula was called Supasa. At that time, these people were called Supiyas. The lifespan of the Supiyas was 20,000 years. They could climb Mount Supasa in 2 days and descend in 2 days. At that time, the Blessed One, Kassapa, Arahant, Sammasambuddha, had arisen in the world. His two chief disciples were named Tissa and Bharadvaja, an excellent pair. See, monks, that name for this mountain has disappeared. These people have died, and that Blessed One has attained final Nibbana. So impermanent are volitions, so unstable, so unreliable, etc. It is enough to be liberated from them. At present, monks, this Mount Vipula is called Vipula, and at present these people are called Magadhans. The lifespan of the Magadhans is short, limited, fleeting. One who lives long lives 100 years or a little more. The Magadhans climb Mount Vipula in an hour and descend in an hour. At present I have arisen in the world, and Arahant Sammasambuddha. My chief two disciples are named Sariputta and Moggallana, an excellent pair. There will come a time, monks, when the name for this mountain would have disappeared, and these people would have died, and I would have attained final Nibbana. So impermanent are volitions, monks, so unstable, so unreliable. It is enough, monks, to experience revulsion towards all volitions, enough to become dispassionate towards them, enough to be liberated from them. This is what the Blessed One said. Having said this, the Fortunate One, the teacher, further said this. This was called Pachinavangsa by the Tivaras, and Vankaka by the Rohitasas, Supasa by the Supiya people, Vipula by the Magadhan folk. Impermanent, alas, are volitions. Their nature is to arise and vanish. Having arisen, they cease. Their appeasement is blissful. This word I mentioned as volitions. Another translation is conditioners. The things of the world condition others, and they are also conditioned by others. So in this sutta, this very same mountain, a long time ago, you need 4 days to climb up. That means it used to be very high. 4 days to climb up. At that time, the people's age was 40,000 years. Then later, the mountain became shorter and took 3 days to climb up. At that time, the people's age was 30,000. And then later still, when another Buddha appeared, it took only 2 days to climb up, and the people's age was 20,000 years. And now the Buddha says, you only need 1 hour to climb up. And the people's age is only about 100 years. It shows the mountains can go shorter and shorter. So the Buddha says, everything in the world passes away like a dream. So you now. 22.99 at Savatthi, the Buddha said, monks, this samsara is without discoverable beginning. The first point is not discern of beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. Sorry for a moment. I should know this samsara is a round of rebirths. There's no beginning. There comes a time, monks, when the great ocean dries up and evaporates and no longer exists. But still I say there is no making an end of suffering for those beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. There comes a time, monks, when Simaru, the king of mountains, burns up and perishes and no longer exists. But still I say there is no making an end of suffering for those beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. There comes a time, monks, when the great earth burns up and perishes and no longer exists. But still I say there is no making an end of suffering for those beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. Stop here for a moment. So the first part, the Buddha says, time has no beginning. This second part is really saying that time has no end. Unless you get rid of ignorance and craving, you will continue to wander on the round of rebirths, and there will be no end to it. So if you understand the Dhamma, then you will make an effort to practice the spiritual path and get out samsara. Not like some people who are ignorant, they think they want to stay on in samsara and help other beings. In the Buddha's teachings, all the beings are in our mind, basically like a dream. So unless you wake up, you will continue to suffer endlessly. Suppose, monks, a dog tied up on a leash is bound to a strong post or pillar. It would just keep on running and revolving around that same post or pillar. So too, the unlearned, ordinary worldling regards body as self, regards feeling, perception, volition, consciousness as self, etc. Or as belonging to self, or self as being in the aggregates, or the aggregates as being in the self. He just keeps running and revolving around body, around feeling, around perception, around volition, around consciousness. As he keeps on running and revolving around them, he is not free from body, not free from feeling, not free from perception, not free from volition, not free from consciousness. He is not free from birth, aging and death, not free from sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair, not free from suffering, I say. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is giving a very good simile, just like a dog tied to a pillar. You will keep running around and around that pillar. So too, we run around the round of rebirths, and the pillar represents the five aggregates. We are chained to the five aggregates. And what is this chain? The chain is the chain of desire and lust for the five aggregates. Because we have desire and lust for the five aggregates. Wherever we go, it's only around these five aggregates, namely body and mind. But the learned, noble disciple does not regard body as self, nor feeling, perception, volition, consciousness as self. He no longer keeps running and revolving around body, around feeling, perception, volition, consciousness. As he no longer keeps running and revolving around them, he is free from body, free from feeling, perception, volition, consciousness. He is free from birth, aging and death, free from sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair, free from suffering, I say. So that's the end of the sutta. So only when we know the Dhamma and we eliminate ignorance and we cut off the craving for the five aggregates, which we take to be the self, or as belonging to the self, or as being in the self, or the self as being in the five aggregates. So when we cut off the craving for the five aggregates, then we are no longer tied to this pillar of the five aggregates, and we also stop running around samsara.